Alright, welcome back. I've been a little bit busy this past couple of weeks, haven't had a chance to work on this project much, but I'm going to try to give you an update on where we're going with this. I was able to get the ribbon cable out, and I was able to straighten this out. So I got it straightened. You can see it's in line now where it needs to be. Both sides, and even from the front. It's still a little high on this surface right here. But the problem we have is the way that it split and broke. This thing right here has a lot of movement to it. So it's not going to be very strong at all. So, and because this is pot metal, it's going to be impossible to try to braze it or weld it or solder it or anything like that. So what we're probably going to have to do is just fabricate a whole brand new piece. My plan is to use a piece of Delrin, high molecular plastic, and just carve this whole piece out and make it the full length. Then I'll split it in half, put the first half on down here and the remainder back here, and then I'll just probably drill and tap for some like 440 screws that go inside there to hold the thing on. There's plenty of clearance between the circuit board and this. Just got to leave space for the ribbon cable to pass through. So it'll probably be 2 screws on this side and 2 screws on this side, which will be more than strong enough, and the Delrin will actually provide a nice slick surface for it to slide on. So it's not a very complicated shape. I don't own a mill, so it's going to be hand carved. I'll use some stuff, but I'll end up using files and drills just to get this whole thing fabricated, and then drill and tap this hole for the tension spring to go onto it. So that's about all we can do with that piece. And I've checked the website, and there's no way to order a new one. And this is definitely not usable the way it is right now. So that's the general plan. And it seems doable. It's just going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, but I'm sure we can do that. Alright, so our next project we're going to work on before we plan that one out is this broken screw that slides inside of here and holds our armored cable in place. As you know, when that thing slammed down, it separated and broke, and we had to pry this piece out by grooving it and then pulling it out with a split ring plier and determine its metric thread, of course. And it's a 0.8 metric thread, and our actual dimensions, our diameter on this is about 0.308. So I'm just going to make one out of brass, I think. Complicated issue that we've got to deal with here is a little bit of threading, and like I said, since I don't have a mill, I'm going to be forming just 2 flats on a round just to get a wrench onto it to tighten down. And then this thread back here on the back end is going to be interesting, and that threads into the armored cable itself, and this one right here will thread into this piece here. So do all the milling, or I'm sorry, the lathing, and then I'll end up drilling the hole in it all the way through to the right dimension and cutting the flats on both sides so we can get a wrench onto it. And I'm going to be making it out of a piece of 1/2-inch brass. So it's going to be quite an interesting little topic, because I don't have the best lathe in the world. I've got a little tiny hobby lathe, which is supposed to be good for small things like this. but we shall see. So move over to the lathe and start turning this thing down, get it to our rough dimensions, and then maybe do some threading. Alright, so we'll see you over there. Alright, so we've got our change gear set up to cut 0.8mm threads. We've got both of our dials set to 0. Got our compound set to 29.5 degrees. And I've got kind of an unorthodox tool set up here. It's a it's a cutoff blade, but I've ground it to 60 degrees. And since we are cutting metric, we obviously can't use the gear indicator, so we're going to have to reverse the lathe. And the slowest that my lathe goes is 120 RPM. So it's going to be it's going to be entertaining to see this thing, see if we can get it to stop right there on that shoulder. So we're going to take a light scratch cut first and see if we're actually matching our threads. And since I don't have metric thread gauges, I do have a 0.8mm bolt here that I can match up and see if it works. Alright, so got our half nut engaged. And here we go. Okay, that one didn't touch. Back it off, and we'll take another 3. See if we can get a mark put on this thing. And actually, I'm going to blue this just so that we can see it a little bit better. And still no mark. Back off again. Take another 3. Disengage. Reverse. Grab our happy little bolt here and see if we're cutting 0.8. And it doesn't look like it. Alright, back to the drawing board. Okay, so it looks like I did my math wrong trying to figure out metric threads, which, okay, whatever. So what I figured on is the bolt that I have has 8 threads per centimeter. So doing the math, it came out to 0.8 metric thread, which is what I set my lathe up for, and obviously that was way too fine of a pitch. So what I've got is went back through and looked at the machinery's handbook and did a little bit more math, and it looks like I have a 1.25 metric thread, which should be 8 threads per inch, because the 0.8 is actually 12 per inch per centimeter. So the 0.8 is actually 12 threads per centimeter. I don't understand metric, so it's a learning process. So I'm gonna clean this off, re-blue it, and then we'll take another scratch cut and see if this matches correctly. Move my change gears around. Redo our setup. That should give us our scratch. Alright. Now, it's cutting back over itself when I go in reverse. Huh. That is very peculiar. So I can get a clean mark. Grab my metric thread gauge. And that looks right. But the weird thing is when I reverse, it cuts a different thread. So, I know. Need to back this thing off. Back to 0. Let's take 4. Okay, where'd my thread gauge go? That looks correct. So, we'll back this thing out. Reverse. I'll take 5. Back down to 0. Back out. Down to 0. 4, 6. Let's take 8. Back out. Back to 0. 2, 4, 6. Okay. Back out. Wish I could see this. My eyes are getting so bad. Two, 4, 6. Okay, now we're taking heavier cuts, so I have to back off. Two, 4. Back to 0. Yep, afraid of that. A little bit of a gouge there. Okay. Lathe just goes way too fast. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this thing off, and we are going to start over and choke up on this and call it lesson learned. Right. Alright, let me get reset back up.